mental health is not taken seriously in many places. It is a stigma, but then it's a stigma that caused the loss of lives.
If you could mobilize a group of people, what movement would you mobilize and why?
I would call my movement the mindful movement. Suicide is one of the leading causes of death between people aged 15 and 29. 1 in 3 people are expected to suffer from mental illnesses in their lifetime. So I believe that mobilizing people to strive for mental health would actually fix so many social ills in our society. And that is what I would mobilize.
To those that are watching, we are speaking about the Life Esidimeni Inquest, and a few things have been highlighted.
Sorry guys.
Sorry about that.
This technology on my side is not so...
Let's see. No, it's okay. It happens all the time. So let me just paste that. But I was just letting the people know, today we are joined by Life Esidimeni Family Committee member, Christine Anumalo, and then we are also joined by Umunyana Rijeje, no? Section 27 Executive Director. And today we are speaking about the Life Esidimeni Inquest. It was what happened with the Life Esidimeni tragedy was 144 lives, if I'm not mistaken, you said, were lost. And now the last, before we got cut off, we were speaking to Christine about the Say Their Name campaign and how it is important to put a face to a name and not just put statistics, especially in a case like this one. Munyana has already explained the legal side of it and how the inquest is going and how it's about accountability. Yes, compensation in some instances has been made, but then now it's about accountability and making sure that just because the members, the family members were vulnerable, it does not mean that they should have been taken advantage of. And this is that is what is being addressed right now, human rights violations, and it's about getting justice. Because just because you have a mental illness or struggle with mental health, it does not mean that you should be taken advantage of or stripped of your human rights just because of the stigma that surrounds it. Yes, we were talking to you, Ma'am Christine, and we were asking you to please explain the Say Their Name campaign and how it helps humanize the Life Esidimeni tragedy. I don't know if you would like to continue, or if how I've explained it was how you'd like to say it.
Yeah, no, you said it perfectly, because it's really just to remember that these were individual. They were loved, they were cared for, and they were human beings as well. And
one thing that Umunyana said was how I asked if the inquest could lead to criminal charges, and one thing that she did mention was if there's criminal accountability there, and if there's criminal responsibility that exists, people should be held accountable and should be brought to the face of justice. And I know that you mentioned that they're new witnesses, and that makes it they're new witnesses, and this makes it completely different from the arbitration because of the new factors that have been counted in. And I wanted to ask from your side, Umunyana, for other families or patients that have perhaps received poor treatment from a facility or an NGO or a hospital, what can they do, even if it's at the highest level? What can they do to receive justice? What can they do to basically fight for their human rights?
Yeah, so I would say speak up, because people who have mental illnesses, intellectual disabilities, often can't speak for themselves. And so it's the family members, it's others, it's the community that has to speak up for them. And one of the things that they can do is approach the health ombudsman, who have an office and can make inquiries into complaints from the public, and can go to those facilities, conduct an investigation, find out what happened, and assist the family. So that's definitely a port of call that is really important. There's also our website that we have done with the family committee together with SADAG, called Life Esidimeni Memorial, which is at lifeesidimeni.org.za. And there we have where you can actually what your complaint is, and connect with SADAG. SADAG does have a number of ways to assist people. They obviously run different hotlines if you require help for any kind of mental health concern. You can phone them up, but also through this website. What they're doing is to connect people and to assist in getting those complaints resolved. So that's another thing. You know, even at the facility level, if somebody is getting care or not getting care at a particular health facility, one can make a complaint at that site. With a clinic or a hospital board, there's some way to engage, and those people should be able to assist family members. But there are several ways in which they can get assistance.
And to you, Mom Christine, I wanted to find out, I know the family have really come together during this movement since it started to right now. How has the support helped you, and how do you guys support each other? Because I know it's a very difficult time, because you basically have to relive everything and just make sure in the name of getting justice. But how has the support from the families and helped you, and how does it help others as well?
You know, as the families, we've actually come together, and we almost know each other's stories so well, you know, because of the time and the trauma and the experience that we have gone through. We've got WhatsApp groups, and we've got obviously each other's telephone numbers, so we speak about issues and how we feel and how we can support each other. And obviously we've got the assistance of SADAG, who's always on hand to assist families and to visit families and just assist with counseling. But what this has taught us is that our experience must help others. It mustn't be something that we have gone through and we are going to die with the knowledge that we have gathered over this period of time. And that's, I think, what part of our driving force is that we don't want others to go through what our loved ones have gone. You know, and we want those families whose loved ones are still in facilities to know their rights, to know that they can stand up and not to be afraid. You know, and like Umunyana was saying, you've got your mental health review board at each facility that you can report to. So people must not be afraid, and we can assist and help wherever we can, you know, to help people. But this fear of reporting needs to end. It needs to stop in order for us to actually get the assistance that we have.
You guys speak about how you feel. How do the families feel? It's been a long time, but how do you guys feel? How are you feeling?
Some days are better. Some days are unbearable. You know, some days you can't get out of bed, because remember, we've got mental pictures of what happened. We've got these memories in our head that you can't show the next person. You can only try and express how you feel. But you have those moments where the slightest thing will remind you of your love, you know? And when you remember the good, immediately after remembering the good, you remember what happened. And just remember individuals' names just strikes up anger. You know, there's so many different things that, you know, I suppose each one of us go through on a day-to-day basis. But it is, you know, what people don't understand is the pain. You know, if only you could take the pain and put it onto someone else and say, can you feel my pain? But you can't. And that's, I think, what makes this so much more difficult. And I suppose that's why we've been able to stick together, because I can talk to the next family member and explain to them, and they will understand, because to some degree they've walked the road with me. But to talk to an individual who asks me about, also what's happening with Life Esidimeni, and you tell them, and it's like, you guys, you know. So it's not the same, and I think that's why we've been able to stick together for so long.
And do you believe that the justice that you will get from this inquest will not that it will help with the pain, but then it will at least soothe some of it?
Look, the most difficult part about this process is not knowing what really happened. and also not having somebody being held accountable. So I think once those are out of the way, then the proper healing begins.
Yeah.
You know, then I suppose the soul of the individual can also rest. But until then, you can't really have closure. You can't have closure when you don't have the answers and you don't have the person responsible behind bars. So until then, I think when this happens, I think it will become easier. And then all we need is time to heal and I suppose forgive everybody or forgive the process or even forgive them.
And you spoke about how for the families, it's about using this experience to make sure that it doesn't happen to the next person or to the next family. And during this entire process, how has the importance of mental health awareness and an empowered mind come to light? How important is it for us to be knowledgeable about mental health and to also just be educated about it, but also just to have empowered minds? Because I think one thing that the tragedy highlighted was the fact that mental health is not taken seriously in many places. It is a stigma, but then it's a stigma that caused the loss of lives, you know, where vulnerabilities were taken advantage of. So during this entire process, how has the importance of mental health awareness come into play?
It's become really, really important. For example, one of the things that we've realized is that from the surviving family members, the need to actually have committees in each hospital, where if there's an issue relating to a family member or any other mental health care user in that facility, there is somewhere where you can run to, because some of the family committee members and some of the families have actually volunteered their time to say that when there's an issue, they will raise it on behalf of the families. So it's bringing together that you don't have to do this alone, and you've got rights as a family member, and as your loved one in the facility also has rights. So you've got the right to stand up, fight, and you don't have to take the abuse that usually comes from the people in those facilities who look after our loved ones. So it's that empowerment of saying you're not alone, we can help you. But also I think one of the other things that the families have actually come to realize is that as Umunyane mentioned, that the former Chief Justice Musida, when he gave the award, one of the things that he recommended is that there must be a monument. And when you hear monument, you assume there's a stone, and every year people will be going there and commemorating the one who died. But as families, we've actually decided we don't want a stone. We want a living monument. And when we say living monument, we want a facility. And I liken it to the Nelson Mandela Hospital, because in that facility you've got the best possible care for children, and that's what we want for mental health as well. We want a facility where you're going to have the best professionals who can attend to every possible mental health illness that is out there, and if not, find the answers for it. And that's what we have asked for. And then on top of that, we have said in each region, because in Gauteng we've got 5 regions, we said with every major clinic in the region, there must be a facility linked to that clinic, so that if a loved one is brought into the facility and there is a likelihood that that person could be suffering from a mental illness, then they must be immediately referred, so that there's early detection, so that once it's detected early, then at least there can be a treatment of some sort, and education for the family can begin about knowing what that illness entails and what is required, and therefore being able to treat it and that person living, and I'm saying normal in inverted commas because the word normal is something that, depending on who you are in life, is debatable. But people can then continue with their lives, And that's what we are saying. So from this experience, this is what we've learned, and we've realized that mental health is in the background because there is nothing out there to help families. And this, our monument, we're hoping will change that. And that's I think what's come out of this, and to be honest with you, I think it's a beautiful process, and if done properly, could really change how we look at mental health in South Africa.
And that would be a great step in the right direction. Something good coming out of something so tragic. And in terms of the inquest, what are the family members expecting? What outcome are the family members expecting from the inquest?
I wish I could actually draw a diagram and just show you arrows pointing evidence to individuals, and ultimately the judge ruling that they are liable and charges should be laid against them, and ultimately criminal charges, and they end up in jail. Hopefully, that's what we're hoping for. Yeah.
And from both of you, both of you guys, how will this inquest affect family members? The family committee, just all the family members, including the ones in the family committee.
Well, it's going to be reliving the whole process, and it's a very painful process. I've already, for the past week, it's been really difficult to sleep. Just I suppose all the memories playing out in one's mind. It's a very emotional process because we're now going to hear hopefully more detail than we did in the arbitration. So yeah, it's been tough already. We've been on the chat groups literally for the past week already, just sharing our feelings. And today was even worse. I mean, the chat groups were crazy. Just most of the families saying how they feel and what things that were said on the in court were actually making them feel. So it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a really hard process.
Yeah, and I'll just add that our team at Section 27 been, as I say, walking this road, this long road to justice with the family members, and our team have been out. The lawyers have been preparing all of the witness evidence. They're going to be cross-examining various witnesses over the next few weeks, and are fully occupied with this to make sure that we do our best as legal representatives of the families so that we can get something that is tangible for the family members to walk away from the inquest with thing. And then to know that this is not the end as well. We are fully committed as 27 to walk this road until we see, as Christine has said, people going to jail, because that is what we think is just conduct that these officials and NGO owners, which led to deaths. And deaths really in the most awful circumstances. These were gross human rights violations, and there has to be that level of accountability. So we continue to work on that.
And to you, Umunyana, what are the key learnings from the Life Esidimeni tragedy that could help others going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key learning is to ensure accountability at each stage. So wherever opportunity for accountability, whether it's the professional associations, like those who are health professionals had to be reported to the Health Professions Council and discipline. Even with the department, there were people who went through disciplinary processes. All of those things are really critical because we need to really live what is in the Constitution, which says that we must have a state that is responsive to the needs of people, and in particular, vulnerable in our society. And we saw in Life Esidimeni that this was a dismissive state. It was an uncaring state. It was a recalcitrant state. And so we need to seek governance that is in compliance with the Constitution, but is also something that we can be proud of as a community. That this is our leadership. This is the governance standards that we have in this country, and accountability is necessary. Consequences are necessary, and what is being cried out for. We've seen corruption in different ways. We've seen, the Zondo hearing every day about high levels of corruption. We've seen corruption in PPE procurement. There needs to be accountability there. Today we saw that in Gauteng, the person responsible for procurement has been dismissed. That is consequence management that we need to see. And I think that Life Esidimeni contributed to that, because there was political accountability and disciplinary accountability, and as well the arbitration and all of the legal proceedings. So I think that is the biggest learning, that we need to have a country where we can rely on these laws and the Constitution, as Christina has said, so that we have a country in which we look after the most vulnerable, and we respect their dignity and protect their rights.
And I don't know if you're still there, Mom Christine. I think she's stuck for a bit. But one thing that I wanted you to please reiterate, because we got cut and I want to save this video, is how the whole case and what happened was a human rights violation. I think that needs to be reiterated. We got cut from the previous one, so if you don't mind just saying that again, please, and just speaking about how it was a human rights violation, what took place with Life Esidimeni.
Yes, I think really important to recognize that the right to access healthcare services in Section 27 of the Constitution means that the people should have access to the care that they need. And in this case, these were very vulnerable people who required high levels of psychiatric care, which they were getting in the Life Esidimeni facilities. And the actions of the state, removing them from those facilities, taking them to places where they did not have that care, they did not have the medicines that they needed. Those were all violations of their rights. That conduct in the case of the 144 people led to their deaths. Those were gross human rights violations. They were tortured in terms of what Justice Musida said, and hearing the evidence about how people were starved, how people died of dehydration because they food and they didn't have water. They were cold in the winter. These were the most undignified circumstances in which they died. And Justice Musida found that that was torture. These are gross human rights violations. And the findings of Justice Musida's award gave compensation to the families in order to recognize those human rights violations. Going to the inquest, again, this is about maintaining the dignity, even in death, of those who died, and making sure that the families then have some kind of redress, as they've said what justice means to them. And this inquest must find that there is criminal responsibility, that the deaths were connected to decisions and actions of named individuals, and that they should face the music.
Yeah, that is accountability. Accountability is honestly the key to justice in this situation. And I don't know if Mom Christine can hear me. Okay, no, I think she's having trouble with her network. How long will the inquest take?
So it will be several weeks. As we saw in day one, there was one witness led. We know that there are 38 witnesses to be examined and cross-examined. So it's likely to take another 2 months, of evidence to be heard. And then, of course, we'll have to leave it with the judge to make the findings around the cause of death and if any could be connected to criminal response.
I don't know how close. You work closely. Oh, there she is. Can you hear me, Mom Christine? I don't think she can hear me. But during your work with the families, is there any Oh, you can hear me. Okay. So the question that I had was actually for you. But I wanted to find out, during this entire process, one thing that you've reiterated is how you guys have to relive the process over and over again when you in the quest for justice, and how painful it is, and how, yes, you do support each other, but do you guys receive some sort of psychological support as well? Like if need be, because like you're saying, you guys saw what happened. You have those images in your mind, and I wonder, how do you guys cope during this time? I don't think she can hear me. Umunyana, I don't know how close. Oh, there she is.
As families, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but as families, we've got this.
Right. I think it's a bit of a network issue. Working closely with the families, is there some sort of support, Umunyana, that they get, and to help, because we are dealing with a mental health case here, and them reliving it and in their quest for justice. It could be, like she's saying, it was a traumatic experience. So I don't know if you know if they do. Oh, there she is. If there is some sort of psychological support or any support to support their mental health too.
Sorry, I think I was a bit cut off there. But I think if I got the end of your question, is a psychological support for the family. And basically we have, I think SADC has been our guardian angel throughout this process. You know, they do counseling for families, individuals, and a lot of the family members who are actually elderly. So a lot of them it really took a burden on them. It took a toll on them. Some got ill, some ended up in hospital. And we've heard of a couple of them actually passing out of COVID. Others, it's just the stress of the process. So we've really been relying heavily on SADC. And obviously, if we have any questions, Section 27 is always there to answer our questions. So we've been lucky to actually have partners and people who walk the road with us. So that's how we've been able to cope. Is at least, when you have a question, you've got somewhere to run to get some sort of answer.
I'm very happy that you guys do receive psychological support. Because like you said, you have to relive the process, and it's quite a traumatic experience as well, but a necessary one, unfortunately. So getting the necessary psychological support, because often when we're talking about people that are living with mental health or struggling with mental illnesses, we often forget their caregivers as well, their family members, and how it affects them. So during this process, I'm very happy that you're getting psychological support, but thank you to both of you for coming on Mindful Mondays and discussing such an important topic. I think the first time I read on it was late last year, because it's not something that a lot of people knew about, I felt like it was swept under the carpet and no one was really discussing it. So for both of you to come on here from the family members' perspective, but also from a legal perspective, has become quite important, so people can also just understand the rights of people that are living with mental health. Just because they're vulnerable, it does not mean that they need to be taken advantage of, but rather their human rights, as Ma'am Christine said, matter if not more, in this instance. So I hope, like you were saying, with the clinic that needs to be built, there's structural change that comes about, so their deaths were not in vain. The deaths were not supposed to happen in the first place, but then at least they will not be in vain, and there shall be some sort of accountability that is taking place. So to both of you, thank you for your advocacy. Thank you so much for shining the spotlight on this. I think a lot of people were educated. I was educated. And I hope I'll be watching closely to see how the inquest goes, but accountability will take place.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having us. I really appreciate the platform.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Have a lovely evening. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.